I'll explain that.
Awesome, thanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the WinCAMS channel. Today we're talking about directories, which you're going to find in just about every single CAMS data entry program. I'm going to be working with a few of our major programs today: Invoices, repair orders, and the facility ledger, which is in our facilities management module, which is basically a building ledger, but we changed it to facilities so that you could put parking lots and such in it. So here's the invoice screen. You'll always see directory on the far right of your tabs here. So directory is one of the most popular ways to find a record. If I go into the directory, I've got a record count down here at the bottom right, and I'll show you in a moment what happens if that record count gets too high. And it remembers the way I've set up my directory from before. So you can see here I've got invoice number, vendor, whether it has linked files, vendor name, etc., etc. So I encourage each user to set these up for themselves. The way you can customize your directory to be in show the columns that you want in the order that you want is this little pointing finger right here. And so the columns that you can use are on the left, and the columns that you are using are on the right. And of course, the moving them up will move them left in the directory, and moving them down will move them right. So let's say I don't care about this. I can double click it and get rid of it. I don't care about purchase order. I don't need an interface batch number, and I don't need a 1099, and I do want who it was opened by, basically the initials of the person that entered it, and I don't need to know if it has linked files. So then when I say OK, the directory will clear, it will rebuild itself, count back up, and now it's in the order that I specified, and it's clean and it's tight, and it will remember that order and that format for my user profile until I change it. So once I have it in the order that I want, the simplest function of the directory is to look around until I find the invoice I want, say this one for Pape Machinery Exchange, and double click it, and it takes me to that invoice. And I can do, well, I can't do anything with this one because it's posted, but normally I could do whatever I need to do with it. And I go back to my directory, I'm still sitting on that record. I can also find in here, let's say, so actually first I'm going to search, I'm going to sort. So if I sort by, say, description, it rebuilds the directory. Now it's sorted in order by description, and now you'll notice that this find text changed to description. So if I sort by vendor name, now my find is by vendor name. If I sort by description, now my find is by description. So let's see if we bought any bolts. And this is a keystroke by keystroke search. So as I type B, it finds the first instance of B. I type BO, oh, there's bolts. So if I see bolt, I say, okay, that's not the one I'm looking for. I've got two find buttons here: search for the text starting at the beginning, or search starting where I'm at. So I say, that's not the bolts I want. That's not the bolts I want. Well, those are the only two that say bolts. Darn it. So maybe this was the bolts I want. But the point to remember is that that whatever you sort on is how you're going to search. And then these way over here seem a little disconnected from over here, I'll admit, but this is your search option. So you can say, so I had it set to starts with bolts. So an interesting thing to look at here is what maybe there are bolts within the description and it doesn't start with bolts. So let's start the search over. I've already got bolt typed in here, and so it finds that one. There's that second one, and now we've got another one. Okay, there's the dentist company. That's the one I wanted, and I can go to it. Okay, and it will remember your sort option. It'll remember the layout of your columns and the order of your columns for your user name. Okay, if I go to if I go and add another record, right? That, let's say I go and add another invoice test, and I pick a vendor here, and I give it an invoice date Okay, then when I go back to the directory, I'm not going to see that invoice. My test invoice is not here. So if I reformat on search, you'll notice that it says grid needs to be refreshed to reflect recent changes. Okay, so all I need to do that is hit the refresh down here. It will start over, go back to the database, collect again. Now I'm on invoice. Let's look for TEST, and there's my test, and that it was opened by me and today. Okay. So a common one that people like to do is they like to sort by the invoice total, if you know the amount, so you can see that. And by the way, if you click on the header again, it will sort in reverse order, right? So I can see that the largest invoice is $739,000. And another thing that you'll sometimes see, and I can demonstrate this in another program that has more records. Let me bring it over here. Is in repair orders. If you no, I'm sorry. Cut that out, Trevor. This one was the one. If you have too many records in here, then we're going to warn you, because the directories of some tables can get very large, especially tables that are fiscal year independent, such as fleet repair orders, facility service requests, utility billing tables, things like that, that can get too large because they can persist for 5 years or 10 years or more. So what'll happen is you go into the directory and it will say something along the lines of this. There's a threshold that we can set depending on, we can raise your threshold. I think it defaults to 2,000 is the threshold, and it says if there's more than 2,000 in there, then we're worried it's going to take a long time. So I can say, so in several of those types of tables, we've added filter options above the grid. So here it says there are 10,514 records to load in the grid. Are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to work with a list of 10,000? It's a little unwieldy. So we have filter options. So I can say no, it will not fill in the grid. And now I'm working with my filter options. You're going to see these in service requests, time cards, invoices, repair orders, employees, projects, several places. And what these are they give you a way to narrow down your directory. So let's go back to my invoice program where I have filters as well, and I can say, oops, it's not my invoice program, there we go. And I can say, okay, I only want to work with things that were opened by, let's see, how about open initials? I can see there's a lot of WKK. So I'm going to pick WKK, and then I check the box next to that to say I do want to filter by this, and I hit the Set Filters button. And now two things happen. One is I got a very nice, concise list, still sorted it with the columns I wanted and still sorted the way I wanted, but I've only got 196 records. And if, let's say, I am WKK and I only want to work with my invoices, the ones that I enter, so I've got a concise list, and the yellow bar comes up to remind me that things are filtered, because as I move around, I can't see anything but my WKK invoices. So if I look at the References tab, as I move around, you'll notice that it's always WKK. Okay. And then I might also want to combine that with, I only want things that are unposted, right? So they have no post number. So I click that too, and I set the filters. And now I'm down to 128 unposted records that were opened by WKK. And so this is a common one that I like to set people up with, because it's a way to say these are the hot invoices, the ones that are still being processed, maybe are still coming back from the auditor or haven't been posted. Those are the ones that I'm going to work with. At any time I can say clear my filters, and it might warn me again if I had too many. This is below the threshold. 1,107 is going to be fine at just about any site we have, and it's not going to take a long time. And now I'm wide open, okay? But if I set my filters like this, and now I've got these, and this is my standard thing that I want to work with, I can hit this disk button that says save the current filter settings as the default. It's going to save it as my default. Okay, so for my login, so now every day when I come in, I'm assuming that I am WKK, every day when I come in, I'm going to do my best guess of what I want to look at in Invoices is unposted invoices that were opened by me. Right? Now, of course, there's lots of other things I might want to do. I might want to say, a vendor's on the phone, I want to just look quickly at all the Colonial Flex Insurance invoices. Okay, there's only one. It's the one that I just entered 2 minutes ago. What a coincidence. Then once I've gone to a different filter, or once I've opened it wide open, I can use this button to come back to my default, right? So now that I've gone, this refresh is to refresh back to my default filters opened by WKK and unposted, as opposed to this refresh which says reload the directory as a whole and go back to the database. So that's a common one in Invoice for data entry. If I'm looking at, say, repair orders here, a common one might be show me incomplete repair orders. So right now I've got 1,680. Let's set our filters. I've only got 30 incomplete repair orders. That's really nice. Of course, I want to look at things. I might want to say, hey, I want to see a full repair order history of this vehicle. But if I'm the fleet supervisor, or if I'm an employee, I might say I want incomplete repair orders, and let's say I'm Justin, I want incomplete repair orders, and I can either sort by employee there, or I can say assigned to Graham. Okay. And set my filters, and then set that as my default, so then every day I come in and Justin can see the incomplete repair orders that are assigned to him. The one last thing I want to tell you about is there's some cool things here where we have rolling dates, right? So for these 3 date filters above in the repair order screen, we have options. You can put in a from date and a to date, and you can either use fixed dates, which means just stick with March 29th to May 23rd, or we can say just go with the current fiscal year, and then no matter what fiscal year you're in, it will always show you the current fiscal year. Or we have always, so when I saved as my default, stick with the current calendar year, or 6 months past and 1 month future, or 3 months past and 1 month future, so you get a rolling date and you don't have to keep moving it as time goes on. So have fun with directories. I think that's just about it. Good luck.